Hello everyone. I am Austin. Welcome back to Akhelas HQ. We have something fun to open up and check out from Chaosium today. This is the next book. You're getting a lot of reflection there, my god. This is the next book in their game line for RuneQuest. They are starting a new subline, Lands of RuneQuest, kind of like they have Cults of RuneQuest. And this one is about the Dragon Pass central region of the game world. Now, I've undone most of the boxing stuff that you'd usually do with an unboxing because you didn't want to spend, 5 minutes watching me wrestle with cardboard. And I'm talking to the cat's here. He's just going to do what he does. But, I gave myself a bit of a cheat sheet on the shrink wrap, but I haven't actually looked inside yet. As you may have guessed, this is indeed a review copy I've received for free from Chaosium. They just want me to review and talk about it. They aren't asking me to say a specific opinion or anything. They're just sending out copies. I do some work for RuneQuest. I don't do work directly for Chaosium. I work in the Johnstown Compendium as one of their independent writers. You can check out my stuff there because I think it's pretty cool. And it is also how I feed this little monster. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, I know one of the things I'm really looking forward to with this is that I am fairly sure there is, yes indeed, there is a large poster map that is part of this. And we're going to jump straight to that because I really love the poster map that's in the starter set. And this is a larger version of it. So you're seeing this before I have, actually. I haven't looked at this. Oh, wow, yeah. It is a little bit lower in resolution. Not resolution. It's further zoomed out. That's the word I'm looking for. Than I kind of had expected. But that makes a lot of sense for something that's going to fit in the book, too. I was expecting something on the scale of, those big old poster maps on the back wall, and that's not realistic. That's just what was in my head from having seen the different versions of the map. It's just, I'll bring it a little closer so you can see a little bit more, hopefully, provided the cat doesn't, Kitty, you need to cooperate. Before someone asks, his name is Mr. Bigglesworth, and he has inherited all of Dr. Evil's bullshit. So yeah, you can see, there's an enormous number of settlements and places to go check out and explore. And then here on the other side, we have the road system for Dragon Pass for getting around. And this actually looks really handy. This looks like a really good way to kind of understand, okay, here's how players get to places. I've done some of this math before on my own, and this looks like it's going to cut down a lot of that time. So, as a game master, that's actually more useful than you might think it is. Anyway, so here's the actual book itself. We have a lovely little ribbon down in the bottom. Chaosium tends to do that with all their works. It is in pretty much perfect condition. Chaosium, I think, probably does indeed have the best shipping quality I've ever had from anyone doing tabletop stuff. Almost everything comes, in two different boxes, then shrink wrapped, and I've very rarely seen even an inched corner, much less real damage. So we'll go ahead and give a table of contents because y'all wanted to know. So what we kind of have here is an overview of locations and areas in the different homelands of Dragon Pass, and in particular, what I'm pretty excited about here in the bestiary of the wilds, and in the wilds we have rules for new non-human adventurers. I remember someone was sharing this online, and there's rules for newtlings. I'm just going to jump straight to that because I've had players want to play newtlings before, and I'm really curious how. Ooh, what is? Sorry, this is how life is. You flick through and you see cool shit. So this is the inside of the Shaker Temple under Carofin. So we have a canonical representation of the oldest temple, I think, in Dragon Pass. If it's not the oldest, it's damn close. There might be one older in Ezrolia, but I know Ezrolia is not in this book, so maybe it's not Ezrolia Dragon Pass anymore. I don't really know. Anyway, I'm looking for 147. Okay, so we have a sidebar for creating newtlings. So we have more. There are no rules for newtlings in the bestiary, or the Glorantha bestiary. Sorry, the old one. And this is adding. Looks like it's adding similar scale of rules to those bestiaries. Now, I know I briefly looked through the PDF. I didn't want to ruin this whole thing, but I did flick through, and I remember, okay, yeah, there's a lot of these really beautiful spreads that are also visible. Kind of each homeland's introduced with this enormous view of the world. And throughout the work, there's also, there's some really cool, the perspective from standing on top of a hill. It really gives you a geographic view of the land in a way I really don't remember encountering in a lot of game material. Let's see if I can find one real quick for Sartar. Because I just remember when I was kind of flicking through ogling artwork more than actually paying attention to content, the full review and a more erudite opinion is going to be whenever I finish reading this and do a review, which I've got it slated for October 11th. I do a review every week on Friday for the Akhelas website, but sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room and varies. I've got it scheduled, but I haven't read this yet, so I have to read this before I can write that. So that might not happen. It should, but it just depends on what my workload looks like. I'm not seeing one of the things I remember as kind of these perspectives. So I will not spend, another 5 minutes perusing the whole thing. But I know from my brief kind of sneak peek into the PDF and now looking through here, here's another interesting thing. We have this really detailed timeline that's really cleanly laying out the history of Dragon Pass. I know the history section looked really detailed. Oh yeah, I've seen stuff like this in the Glorantha sourcebook. The Lunar Empire has a lot of work like that in the Glorantha sourcebook, but I really haven't seen anything kind of on this level of population movement and detail and kind of, the facsimile of historical realism. It's like, it's not really how history works, but it gives you the feel that you're reading real history when you're reading something like this for a fictional setting. And I remember that, I found one. Tangenting, moving forward, moving backward. So, finishing on history, there is enough movement back and forth, and the scale of years makes sense enough in Glorantha that there is a real potential for something that feels like a real history. In my opinion, for the world to really reach that, it has to reach beyond the urge inspired by King of Dragon Pass, not King of Dragon Pass, King of Sartar, of the in-world document. I think that for it to really flourish as a really interesting fictional history, we need to get past the in-world document thing. In-world documents can be cool, but I find they're more tedious than interesting in the long run for just learning about a place and a world. But the vistas I was talking about, we have an example here. So it says, this is Dragon Pass as viewed from Falling Hills, which I don't remember where that is. I think that's somewhere in the Dragon Spine. That kind of sounds right. And, we can see Caro Finn right here sticking up like the divine needle that she is. And we're getting a really good lay of the land and kind of, how high and low things fall in ways that I don't really know the last time I've seen something that's like this in-world, point of view perspective. Well, maybe this isn't quite point of view. This feels like you have to be flying to be up this high. But you get the drift. It's showing the landscape in a really cool way that I hadn't really expected. My initial reaction to this announcement was intrigued, but I'll admit also a little cynical, under the basic idea of, well, we're having another book about Dragon Pass. We're having a book about, the center of the setting, yet again, that's been defined in so many other ways repeatedly, in varying layers of detail and varying layers currently of canonicity, comparing to the old HeroQuest Sartar Kingdom of Heroes book. There's a Dragon Pass Gazetteer I got a PDF of before Chaosium discontinued it. I found 3 or 4. That's been useful like a handful of times. But the point being that this kind of things happen so much. And I have no idea how much of the text is similar, but the level of artwork and the level of detail we're seeing in artwork here is really reminding me of the really good ways that things like Harn or things like on the Johnstown Compendium, Martin's Ships and Shores, do an effective job of presenting the world as it's really envisioned and shown, and really kind of building immersion in a we're building a real world sort of approach and way, rather than a kind of broad brush description. The art seems to be doing a very good job to depict the world intentionally for certain purposes, rather than as just, oh, here's another action scene, here's another action scene. The cover's an action scene, but everything else, as I kind of flick through, yeah, and a lot of this kind of stuff ends up, it's showing what the world is like, not showing adventurers doing stuff in the world. That's cool. We've got apparently some city maps in here too, and I'm really curious how this compares to Simon Bray's, because I know Simon's recently published a really gorgeous looking book for the JC, which I haven't had a chance to poke my nose into, but is very high on my radar of things I want to check out, because it looks really thorough and elaborate, and also very adventurous with, sewers and brew and all sorts of horrible nasties. And on that note, horrible nasties, I'm going to cut myself here because I'm already gone past the 10-minute mark I was aiming at. And it's been rambly. It's going to be rambly. I don't coherent that well, and I am really getting out of hand here, so we're going to see you next time.